7:02. And we will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I ask that you stand for a moment of silence for September 11th. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have attendance. Any added agenda items this evening? All right, and then are we going to start out with the accommodations?
Yes, so we're pleased to have Chandra back with us, our teacher of the year, along with her husband. I would ask Daryl to come up and just share some of the fine qualities of Mrs. Bach and why she was nominated as teacher of the year.
Yeah, so it's my pleasure to introduce tonight, as I did at a convocation for our district. When we come back to school, we honor the teacher of the year. They get to make a speech, which I know Chandra was really excited to do in front of all their peers. But I just wanted to get the opportunity to read through tonight what I shared with the staff on convocation. So it's my privilege tonight to introduce and celebrate an exceptional educator, Ms. Chandra Wolf. I'm probably butchering the last name a little bit, but I've tried. Who has been selected as East Windsor's 2025 Teacher of the Year. This recognition is a testament to her unwavering dedication, passion, and commitment to the academic and social emotional development of her students. Chandra joined the Broadbrook Elementary School family in 2022 and has since made a huge impact on the lives of her students. Her peers describe her as an extraordinary classroom teacher and a consummate professional. She is known for fostering strong, positive relationships with her students and has earned a stellar reputation with families and staff alike. Chandra's commitment extends beyond academics. She is deeply invested in nurturing the social and emotional skills that will serve her students throughout their lives. Her dedication is evident in the environment she creates, one that meets the diverse needs of all her learners, particularly those with special needs. Chandra's respect for every student and her proactive approach to seeking advice from colleagues to better serve each child's unique needs are qualities that truly set her apart. She maintains regular professional communication with parents, building strong, positive relationships that extend the supportive atmosphere of her classroom into the home. Chandra's influence extends beyond her classroom as well. She serves as a team mentor for beginning teachers, guiding and supporting our newest educators. As a valued member of the school's instructional leadership team, she contributes her expertise to shaping our educational programming. Additionally, Chandra is committed to her own professional growth, consistently engaging in professional development to enhance her skills and stay at the forefront of educational best practices. On behalf of the entire East Windsor Public Schools community, I want to again congratulate Chandra on this well-deserved honor. Her dedication to excellence, compassion for her students, and commitment to fostering a positive learning environment are an inspiration to all of us. We're incredibly fortunate to have her as part of our team, and we look forward to the continued impact she'll make in the lives of her students this year and beyond. Please join me in giving Sir Chandra a round of applause. Speech is all yours.
Thank you. It's truly an honor to be at Broadbrook, and I'm just really happy to be here. And thank you for this recognition. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chandra. We're very proud to have you here and teachers like you here in East Windsor, and thank you for all your work for our kids.
I was gonna say, yes, obviously we know tonight is a school night. If you need to go ahead and go, or if you want to stay, you're more than welcome, but if you need to leave, we understand that as well.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for all the work you do at our schools. Thank you. See you tomorrow. All right, next on the agenda, we have our minutes from August 28th, our regular meeting minutes. I would entertain a motion.
August 2024 regular meeting minutes.
Courtney has made the motion. Is there a second? Carrie seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
Wasn't here.
Denise is going to abstain. All right, next on the agenda, we have public participation. Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak this evening? All right, next we have our student representative report, and we do have a new student representative tonight, and I'm sorry, it's Mariella.
Yes.
And your last name is?
Lucasi.
Lucasi. Okay, thank you for coming, and go right ahead.
Broadbrook Elementary School had a great start to the new school year. Pre-K meet and greet and kindergarten orientation were well attended and helped families feel a part of the school community. Open house was August 28th. Approximately 2/3 of our families attended. Families completed a scavenger hunt to visit multiple locations throughout the school, and students received a popsicle from the principals. Several community groups joined the open house. Broadbrook Elementary School Mileage Club kicks off September 18th with a PTO-sponsored event. Broadbrook Elementary and East Windsor Middle School families are invited to run, exercise, and show off their school colors. It promises to be a great event. East Windsor Middle School kicked off the school year on a high note. August 30th, the school hosted its second Welcome Back Carnival, where students enjoyed playing bingo, meeting Snickers and Pony, and participating in outdoor games. The excitement continued on September 4th with the East Windsor Middle School Open House, where families took part in a scavenger hunt and were rewarded with prizes for completing it. East Windsor Middle School has 2 new planters and 2 new benches that were planned by the East Windsor Middle School Beautification Community and created by the high school tech department. Students and families are already enjoying the new benches. High school. During the first week of East Windsor High School, students participate in exact path diagnostic testing across all grades. This is an assessment that helps us identify which areas students may need additional support in reading, writing, and math. The results allow us to tailor weekly assignments that address any gaps in our learning. Students who achieve grade level proficiency and have met the benchmark on their most recent PSAT will be exempt from weekly assignments. This incentive will motivate them to do their best. During the first week, Ms. Anderson held assemblies with each grade to highlight the progress made from the fall of last year to this past spring. This was an important moment to celebrate growth and set the tone for continued improvement. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Carrie Allen, you're a welcome member of this board. I can tell you that student voice means quite a bit. So as we have discussion, feel free to share your opinions and thoughts as sitting here.
Okay, thank you.
Patrick, I just asked, thank you so much. And I'd love to know just one little thing about you
Like anything.
that you want to tell us.
I run cross country. Today was our first meet. We ran
Okay.
against East Granby and we did super good. Kids from our school, Tim placed first. The 3rd and 4th placings also were from our school, and I placed 4th for the girls.
Congratulations.
Pretty good.
Congratulations. It's nice to have you here.
And what grade are you in?
I'm a senior.
Okay.
She was sharing just briefly before the meeting, 4 AP courses you're taking right now?
AP courses.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, thank you for coming. We do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, next on the agenda, we have our curriculum report. Daryl, will you're up again?
Yeah, I am. So the first portion of the curriculum report is actually in your packet tonight and includes all of the agendas for professional development that were here at the start of the year. So walking through the packet, what you'll see is the work that really happens for most of the summer and kind of developing how the PD schedule comes together at the start of our school year. First, you'll see the convocation agenda, which I know Jessica and Patrick work really hard at developing. That really kind of brings the school district back together. And as I indicated further or earlier, we introduced the Teacher of the Year. They get an opportunity to speak at that event. And then we also recognize our tenured teachers and really try to kick the district off at the start of our PD week.
Yeah, just to be helpful, it starts on page 5 of your packets, the convocation agenda, and the PD schedule starts as far as you have the new teacher on page 7. And then the full PD schedule starts on page 12.
Yeah, so page 7, thank you, Patrick. On page 7, you'll notice before professional development week, where all of the teachers return, new teacher orientation kicks off. It's 3 days for new teachers to come into the district and really get a small group kind of welcoming to the district and really kind of go over and review a lot of the nuts and bolts. I mean, you're talking about getting computers, making sure that they have logins, all of the essential things that we kind of overlook really for all of us. But we have to onboard all of those people and then provide them training, answer a lot of questions, and really try to set them up for success for those first 3 days. And then we move into the PD week where all the teachers come back. And there were 3 days this year, included all certified staff, all teachers, and all paraprofessionals who came back for the 3 days this year. Starting on page 12, you'll see 3 pages, 12, 13, and 14. Each of those schedules indicates one of the days that teachers are back in district. And you'll notice the schedule indicates the schedule for Broadbrook, middle, and high school on each of those days. I'm not going to read through the schedule with you, but everything on here is really an evaluation of what we did last year, things that we need to improve upon. If you recall my last presentation of the school year, we are always talking about data. What are the things that we need to do? Where are the improvements we need to make? That goes into a lot of what you see in this PD schedule. So you might notice MTSS, you might notice trainings on literacy at the elementary school, you might notice trainings on math at the elementary and middle school. So all of those trainings are very specific. They're tied to a portrait of the graduate. And really, this whole schedule is built to set us up for success throughout the school year. Any questions?
Just 2 things to add on page 5, when it does say new staff introductions, that's not just our teachers, it's our pairs, it's our custodians, it's our support staff. It's really anyone that was hired after last year. So some of those are also mid-year hires from the year prior. So I know when you look at the list, it might look quite a few, but that's the reason being, and it's a nice way to essentially acknowledge those people, welcome them in a formal way. And then also thank you to Kate, Fran, I know Heather's not here, for attending convocation and representing the entire board. We appreciate your participation and support.
It was very nicely done. I really appreciate being able to attend this year. Good job.
All right, awesome. That's fantastic. Very long. Yeah, so Cheryl's going to join me for the next part. And I know this goes to a couple questions we had at our last board meeting. Patrick is going to display our update for the summer enrichment program and give a brief recap of the program that we held over the summer. So next slide, Pat. So going back to early last spring, we had applied for a grant through CREC. As you recall, the CREC grant award was $182,000, which, are just approximately there. Throughout the course of the grant, we served 73 students. That was across the 6 weeks. Attendance during the summer camp was 85%. And we'll talk about the incentive that we had to achieve that goal. As a reminder, the duration of the camp was 6 weeks, divided into 3 2-week sessions. And this was something that we had gone back and forth on when we were writing the grant. We weren't sure, as parents, you have your kids, they're in a lot of activities. Were people going to commit to the full 6 weeks, or were they going to commit to 1 2-week period versus another, So we did do that. It turned out to be pretty successful. We did find that most people did attend all 3 sessions. But there were some people who did not, and they kind of picked and chose which sessions. And then as a reminder, the academic enrichment portion of the camp was here at the elementary school and occurred from 8 to 11 in the morning. And then students were bused over to the Parks and Rec camp and were there from 11:30 to 4:30. I saw a couple of parents. It was like 2 or 3 days into camp, and I, just kind of pulled some parents and I said, how was your kid yesterday? They were like, exhausted. They loved it. So I was like, mission accomplished. As a parent, like that's fantastic. Go ahead, Pat. So I know we talked about staffing again in the spring, but here's a list of the teachers who participated, the paras, the administrative staff, and the nursing who helped out on various days. You might say administrative staff, that was pretty big. So every one of those people had a very specific role. Cheryl really did a lot of the pre-camp work and design of the camp with Linda, and Matt was really the day-to-day contact in the building. He did a phenomenal job. We got a lot of really great feedback. So this is something that we're really, really proud of. And you'll see some more commentary from Craig later on in here.
Daryl, how many people were teachers and how many people were paras in that first column? To go back.
Yes.
The first,
Paras are the second. Okay, so all were certified teachers.
Yeah. So, and you have to, the way the teachers were set up too, they may not have been here for the full 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
And it came in.
yeah, so in the same spirit as we did for the campers, there were people who they wanted to be a part of the camp, but they had already planned vacation. So that's not a problem. We just want people here for the kids. So that worked really well.
Is that the same thing for the nursing? Because that's a lot of nurses.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
were they expecting disaster?
It was
Yeah.
a rotation.
Yeah, no, rotation. So it was very much, if I wanted to teach, one of the courses here, but I said, I had people reach out and said, Daryl, I had a planned vacation the first session. Can I come in the second and the third? Absolutely. So this is just in recognition of everyone who had a role in the camp this summer. So thank you for asking.
Well, congratulations, because I just want to say in the past, just knowing, certified teachers, they're not in other systems across the state. It is a heavy lift to get certified teachers to participate in summer and after school programs. So congratulations to both of you for having this many teachers involved.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think it was great. And I think, the polling that we got back, that people enjoyed it. And I'll walk through this and kind of specifically indicate why that is. As we were looking into the curriculum for the camp, a few things we wanted to make sure we did was stay true to what we're doing here in the district and along with our portrait of the graduate. So the informed lifelong learner, we talked about, again, in the grant application, we talked about making sure that kids were busy, they were working together, they were collaborating and working on projects that were team-based. We included Lego for our STEM. That was a huge success. That was the first time we had ever used Lego. The program that they gave us was pretty intensive. The other thing we did, and we weren't sure this would work out, but I think it did prove to be pretty successful. If it was a first grader last year and they were going into second grade this year, we put them in the second grade class to give them some work to prepare them for going into second grade. That turned out to be really beneficial because we had some students who left first grade, they were getting second grade work and they were, rising to the occasion.
Evelyn went for 2 weeks. The first day she came home, I said, how was it? She said, oh, Maggie, I don't know. And I said, well, she said, we're doing 3-number math. What? And she said, you want me to do math with 3 numbers? No, we got to 2 before. And I said, it'll be fine, honey. And by the end of the first week, she was like, I'm good. I can do it.
Yeah, well,
So they
that's,
kicked them right off into that second grade.
yeah. So and they did. So I appreciate that feedback. And then we used illustrative math, which is what the students were used to. So the same structures that we utilized during the year. And for our students who were just joining us for the camp going into the school year, that's something that they started to learn. And then Savas. One of the reasons that I do feel like it was so successful in terms of the curriculum piece was because we were very explicit with the teachers. It's summer camp. Have fun. So if you wanted to spend more time on Legos, the kids were active, they were engaged, they were having fun, let them do that. And all of the teachers, to your point, Betsy, they're all current staff members. They know these kids. So they knew when to kind of push and lay off a little bit. So I think that was really beneficial for them to be able to do that on their own as well. And then really some of the things, I don't know what you got going on over there.
Hard for Daryl to read.
Yeah, so in terms of the portrait of the graduate, self-aware individuals and responsible citizens, we saw a lot of students being very resilient in terms of working together with the Legos. You know, you mentioned the 2 to 3 numbers. That was something that, you know, they had to be resilient on and kind of keep going. And we also saw kids communicating in groups that were not typically the kids that they'd be communicating with. So I think that was a real benefit as well.
I think having the kindergartners, we have to consider that the kindergartners are actually preschoolers. You know, they hadn't learned really a lot of the skills. Like, look, these kids walked out of there learning how to write their name. They learned how to be in a classroom. They learned how to sit in a circle. Really fantastic that they were learning the really good social skills to be prepared to go into kindergarten. All right. So as you know, this grant was through our partnership with CREC. And so this was a great equity opportunity for not only our students from Hartford, but our students from East Windsor. So the grant rollout really ensured that we had a number of students who were coming in from Hartford. And it was designed so that our students who are coming in from the Open Choice program have an opportunity to really become a part of the community and make connections with not only their peers, but with adults and with the school building. And in our conversations with CREC, this was an opportunity that students had the ability to see the school building in a very positive way. Everything was positive. The kids were making connections. So it was a really authentic connection with their school community. And I think that was huge. And in terms of equity, we know that opportunities are an equity piece, like giving kids an opportunity to experience things that they wouldn't ordinarily have an opportunity to experience in their life. Provides equity and opportunity. And you don't know what you don't know when you're a kid. Kids came to us and said that they never played Legos before. I love camp. I never played Legos before. I'd never been to Sunny's place before. I learned how to swim this summer. So many comments from little kids that they had all these firsts that we might take for granted. And it was really awesome to hear their excitement about working with other kids and learning new things and having new opportunities. The Parks and Rec piece over at the Res, kids got to learn about animals. There was Parks and Recs had a Forest Park Zoo came to present all kinds of animals. They got to touch a lizard. Like they got to do all kinds of cool stuff that they wouldn't have necessarily had the opportunity to do. But the relationships are really the key piece. We had great parent feedback. We solicited feedback through surveys. We had opportunities to speak to parents, both at drop off and at the end of the week when we did dismissal from Sunny's place. We had a really good opportunity to meet with parents because they all had to present their ID and take their kids home. And we got really great feedback. Everybody was asking, can we do this again next year? Are you going to run this again? This is great. And really the messages that came through from the parents were that with COVID, a lot of these little guys were toddlers or preschoolers when COVID was happening, and they didn't get the opportunities to socialize as very young children that ordinarily they would have had. And they really appreciated the opportunity for their kids to be able to come to school and socialize and learn and play together and just have fun and make connections. The Lego, can't say enough about the Lego program. And as Daryl said, like the curriculum was really robust. It wasn't just STEM and engineering. It is social emotional learning. The kids learned how to communicate with each other and collaborate. And there were opportunities for them to practice literacy and to practice graphing and things. So it was, parents had great things to say about it as well. And the teacher feedback was really essential in us making adjustments to the curriculum, to giving them the creative liberty to try new things in their classrooms. For example, one of our classrooms was working with the Legos, and they essentially enriched the activity by having the kids create a scene from a movie, and then they had to present it. So not only learning how to engineer and build something, they had to collaborate on the concept, put it together, and then they had to present it in front of a group of people. So they're learning all kinds of skills in the classroom. So they were really excited about being able to combine literature and STEM, and really amazing how kids were practicing physics concepts, adding weight to their sail car, seeing how fast they could get it to go, graphing how far their car would run. It was really cool to watch these little kids building things with gears and just exploring and following directions too. That's a key thing with Lego is that if you ever done a Lego project, like any kind of, they have the little manual and the step-by-step directions. Just learning how to be resilient through those activities is something for a young child. So really the kids did a great job with that. The teachers had great feedback as well. And we decided to include feedback right from the kids. So we periodically asked the kids to share what they liked about camp, the highlights for them. So I picked these comments because Legos were a theme. Kids loved doing the Legos, but kids did talk about how being at camp helped them learn in other ways. So for example, Quincy talked about how much he liked reading. Like the stories were really good that they read. And this other student, Colin, talked about the math that he liked learning and that the teachers are making the math fun. And then finally, this last child explained that he liked being in school because it kept him from being lazy in the summertime, kept him busy learning.
He said it keeps me on task.
Yeah, it keeps me on task. This is a third or fourth grader saying this. So, I mean, really, this is right from kids. This was not coached at all. They were actually sharing that they were learning a lot and having fun doing it. And of course, the Legos were a great hit. The kids had great things to say about the Legos. So that goes without saying. The CREC audit was such a good day for us. I was so proud to be part of East Windsor Public Schools and Broadbrook Elementary School. The first thing they talked about was Mr. Ryan. First thing they said, he was a joy. He was out there. We had a rainy day when CREC came. He had the umbrella. He was taking the kids in. And they did say that having staff there that the kids were familiar and comfortable with, it created a level of sense of comfort to them to know Matt and that he, is a constant in their life. They know him every day in regular school. They loved watching. We did these Lego quick challenges at the beginning of every session where kids had 5 minutes and they had a task that they had to complete in 5 minutes. It's like to create a letter or create a castle, or they had little challenges they had to do, and they had to work with another partner to be able to complete the task in a short period of time. And the staff from CREC really liked that because this is an SEL activity. This is teaching your kids the parts of the graduate skills to be able to work together and communicate and to think critically. So they were really impressed with that. And they did see our 3rd and 4th grade classroom and really spoke to the fact that we had 2 teachers in that classroom. It was a very large classroom. And the synergy of those 2 teachers, that you could tell which teacher was, the leader of that particular activity. They didn't have to connect with each other. Just when they sat in that rocking chair, you knew that teacher was in charge. And they bounced ideas off each other. They worked together. There wasn't one teacher just like watching and the other teacher teaching. They were working together and supporting students. It was really impressive, and the correct people thought so as well. And I added a little bit more feedback because this speaks to the equity part. Both of the women who were auditing the program were Hartford parents. And one of them came right out and said, "This is a great program. This is a great school. I was a Hartford parent." She actually moved out of Hartford. She said, "I would have no trouble sending my child. I would feel comfortable and safe and really satisfied as a parent sending my child to Broadbrook Elementary School." And they did happen to mention that they go to all these open choice fairs and that they would mention Broadbrook Elementary School if people are looking for an open choice program. So I think that was really encouraging to hear them say that they were really happy with what they were seeing. They loved the connection between our program work and what was happening at the Parks and Rec. They visited the reservoir as well. So they had an opportunity to see the kinds of activities that they were doing up at the res. So they felt it was a really robust academic and recreational program that really did support whole child learning as well. They spoke to our attendance being really strong. Ultimately, within the 3 weeks is 85%. We had our peaks and our valleys around holidays, of course. But in terms of attendance, they said we really were a shining star for attendance. And with regard to our open choice enrollment, there were other privately facing programs like this is. It wasn't open to the public. It was just for our school that had open choice participation. And we actually had the highest percentage of kids who were participating from open choice. So we had 17 students who were eligible, 11 of whom ended up participating in the programs. So it was really positive. And again, depending on grant funding, that's the magic question. Are we going to do this again next year? We can do the grant. We will certainly apply for it. I think we've had a lot of lessons learned. It went really well. I'm really proud of how everything went. But we have learned some lessons that we'll try some new curriculum. Maybe we'll try some new activities to provide more experiences to those kids. So hopefully you'll have an opportunity to apply for it again. And to speak to the staffing, some of the paraeducators said, "Are you doing this again next year? Because I want to sign up for it."
It's great collaboration with Park and Rec too.
It's great.
I think that's one of the first times that collaboration has happened. Or has happened.
To that capacity, yes, I will say, I just want to remind the board, this was a competitive grant, so it wasn't an entitled grant. We have our entitled grants where we know we're going to get year to year. This is one in which certainly you have to have some eligibility criteria, which we obviously met. But essentially it's awarded based on the quality of the vision of the program, along with certainly how you express and get that vision across, and certainly the planning involved. So really kudos to Daryl for leading that work. Obviously, there was a lot of stakeholders to your question, Betsy. Certainly Melissa Maltesi was part of that as far as putting into that grant. I will say we have had attempts previous, and so we've learned from those. So she has been involved in some attempts. But this one actually went through, and we feel very good based on the feedback. Should it come like essentially those that look at the grants, East Windsor will be on their radar. And they did mention to Cheryl that it is their goal to secure funding, and that the people that did review the program would like to see it go forward. So we can remain hopeful in that capacity. And certainly to like Daryl and Cheryl's presentation, when you look from the administrators to the teachers to the paras, to the nursing, it really highlights the high quality staff we have within the district. And really just piggybacking off our teacher of the year with Chandra as well too. So really kudos to all the staff.
Is there any, since this was really successful and it seemed like the curriculum was very successful, like is there any thoughts on adding like some of the things that were successful in this program to like some of the school year, like, and maybe seeing some of these ideas work well in the regular school year as well?
Yeah, I mean, we're always evaluating. So I know we had our math and our ELA, which was certainly part of our plan. I think you're probably focused, you're thinking about the Lego
It just sounded like it was, you know, the response of the kids, how they made the math fun, I mean, it's fun, like that's kind of what we want to hear all the time, right? Like the kids, we want them to like learning and love learning. And so if there was something that was successful that can be taken from this and say, you know, hey, maybe this specifically, or like, I don't know, the Legos, is that curriculum ours now that we got this grant? Like, can that be used?
Yeah, so those Legos, we are housing those in the STEM classroom.
Okay.
And certainly as the STEM teacher, they have their own curriculum. And we knew that we were going to be holding on to these Legos. So I think that, you know, through those conversations, she's going to probably be implementing some of those activities in there. So I would assume so.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that too, the literacy and math is already pulling from our existing curriculum resources. So those things are already in place.
Awesome.
From the perspective of the seven-year-old who
Mhm.
attended, and I waited until kind of everything was over with because Evelyn goes, she's gone to FRC. She did it this year. Then she did this for 2 weeks. She's gone to other camps. I waited until the very end to get an opinion from a 7-year-old. And I asked her, you know, what did you like best about the summer camps this year? And her favorite part was the morning part at Broadbrook School when she was in the classroom with the teachers. And I was kind of shocked. I was like, really? Okay. And I said, really? She said, yeah, I really liked doing that because we weren't just kind of running around. It was focused kind of thing. And she loved the Legos, And I think I asked her about why did you love the Legos? And this goes to poor grandparenting. She said, well, here we don't follow the directions, Maggie. You know, the boat with the thing, I just kind of go, yeah, we ain't building Harry Potter's castle, just make it into whatever. And she said, I learned how to follow the directions. I said, oh, okay, all right. You know, shame on me, but shame on your mother. But the thing she most enjoyed this summer was the morning program in the classrooms. So kudos to the teachers and the parents and everybody who did that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. It's really nice. Like when you start this out and we talked about, you know, what we wanted it to be. And we spoke with Melissa at the town side, like what are the possibilities, and you could see it come to fruition. And I think this was really good. And I mean, as a parent, like I would send my kid here, you know, they had a blast. They were coming off the bus exhausted. And it's like I said, I go as a parent, like mission accomplished right there.
And from the perspective of the adult people in the children's life, it was really nice for her mother and I not to be having to say, oh, it's summertime, we really got to make her sit down and do this math stuff and that, because she was getting it. So it made our summer for the 4 weeks that she was here less stressful in that perspective, which was nice.
So was the money, I'm just curious about the money, was that adequate in terms of, as far as when you're evaluating your program? So is that $180,000 adequate to run this kind of a program? Or,
Yes and no.
okay,
I mean, there were things, you know, moving into next year, I know I would be requesting more for a number of things
Yeah.
that came up. You know, basically, you know, to arrive to the 182,000, we had to have a budget that,
yeah,
you know, we presented
Yeah.
that early on. But knowing what we know now,
Yeah.
you know, there would be additional aspects that I would absolutely try to include. So,
I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
As far as-
I mean, they gave examples too with like custodial staff.
Yep.
They gave examples with like extra time for nurses to help get the kids
Sure,
clear
sure,
of fire.
sure.
So they gave some examples.
None of that was in kind. I mean, you had to pay for everything, so, right?
What do you mean by income?
In kind would be hours that would be, you know.
Right, there's some
used-
things we piggyback, like our custodians are working during the summer,
Right.
but like they were talking about like how we could like even like have like put in for overtime for the custodians. Because obviously you're occupying
Sure.
like a large area of your
Yeah.
building that's off.
Yeah.
off limit for cleaning. So they were saying like how you could include it. I don't know if it's Cheryl or
Yeah.
Daryl
Yeah.
that told me as far as the feedback, we could have like
Yeah,
scheduled.
we offset
Yeah.
several people that were already in the building.
Exactly. So
but-
if you really looked at that budget and you looked at some of the time, right, that you're.
We could have
that
asked for
would be-
more.
Yes.
Yeah, the feedback they gave is they understand that school buildings are being cleaned and renovated, updated during the summertime. And that having, 3 simultaneous programs, between us and ESY and FRC happening in the same building, that impedes the ability for the custodial staff to get their work done.
Yeah.
So they suggested that, in the future, you could ask for more money so that we give them more overtime, et cetera, or hire more staff to help get those things done.
I have a couple questions, sorry. You may have already answered this before I came in. Did you find that there was a good distribution of students among the grades that were involved? Or did you feel like it was kind of more like certain age groups versus others?
Yeah, I mean.
That was by design.
Yeah, we put a cap on each grade level because we didn't want to be,
Mhm.
all kindergarten, all first, all second. And we also tried to work with Melissa on the town side, to see, what her limits were as
Okay.
well.
And then it was like first come, first served within those grades. Okay, got it. And then I know you had said, Cheryl, that it was like 12 or 11 choice students that qualified and were able to attend. What would you guys do differently in terms of recruiting specifically the choice students? Do you think it was because of just first year, like marketing, like?
I think our open choice numbers are actually very good.
Yeah.
We only had 17 who were qualified and 11 of them participated.
Okay.
And the one family that didn't participate simply because they have a younger child and a middle schooler. So they had something to do with the younger kid, but nothing to do with the older kid. So I think it really came down to things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the points Cheryl made, I forgot what slide it was, but there were several privately run programs that were set up throughout the summer in several much larger towns that also were open choice. We had the highest percentage.
Okay.
Uh, So that was
I called every single family and invited them to participate.
multiple times.
How many students were turned away?
Did go back and show.
Oh, I don't have that number.
A lot or a few?
There were, I don't know. I hate to just
Yeah, I
throw a
don't,
number out there. We could certainly get it for you. But I'd have to go back. Because we had that all laid out.
Just curious as to whether we could expand it more, if, adding another to each week or something, if that was a thing, if there was a lot, but. if
Yeah, I
there
think
weren't any,
I think expanding it week wise would be tough.
Not week-wise, but so let's say you have 3 programs each week.
Yep.
If you had 4 programs each week, it would be better. I mean, would you?
More classrooms.
Yeah. Fair enough. We'd have to look at the total numbers. Yeah.
Would you ever think to gear this towards like expanding it to 5th and 6th grade, like type of thing, or does this not work well with that?
So we had those conversations. So the feedback we got from other towns, other communities as well, was it's much tougher to keep the older kids engaged, especially at like the summer camps, when they're not have that so much structure.
Yeah.
So that is difficult. We could certainly look into it, but
Yeah.
that was something that,
Even like the 5th grade to me, because in a lot of times that's still like the elementary school age, and then it's getting a little push going into that middle school, like. I just think it might be a nice add to,
yeah, well, and again, this will all come back to, can we get that funding?
for sure. Yeah.
So one of the things that's so successful, and you're not sure what's going to happen next year with some of the, so I would kind of make a recommendation to kind of seek out other foundational support from foundations. I know the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, a lot of times is very interested in some of the stuff. So it doesn't hurt to start looking now. And then hopefully, that summer program happens again. But if you have money, right, and that would be just enhance what you're doing. So just to be prepared.
especially since it's so successful.
No,
Thank you.
Thank
This is a
you.
Great, uplifting whole thing. Thank you.
yeah, it's really nice to be able to do for the community.
Great summer for the kids.
It was so interesting to plan and
Yes.
see it execute was really awesome.
Thank you.
Probably
Thank
very
you very
rewarding.
much.
Right.
Next on the agenda, I believe we have Robert going for it.
Hello. So we have had, as you heard our student report, a great start to our school year. So we wanted to share a success celebration we have with you, and then also some new initiatives that will help us to even have a more successful year as we move on. So just to start off, of course, everything is tied in the line to the portrait of the graduate and the strategic plan. As you hear about the things that we're going to be talking about, you'll see that it covers all areas of the portrait of the graduate, between academics, SEL for the responsible citizens, and even the self-aware learners, individuals. So, and then also what we're talking about has to do with academics, so that certainly aligns to the strategic plan. And I'll let Matt start off that celebration.
All right, so one of the biggest celebrations that we have going into this year is one of the big focuses that has gone across the state of Connecticut has been to decrease the chronic absenteeism for our students. And this last year, we were able to just sneak under the state average for our chronic absenteeism. Well, this year we did a lot better than that. So last year's numbers, we were the state was 17.5 and we ended up at 12.2. So we had a very large decrease in our students who were chronically absent. And a lot of that went to, we have an attendance team that meets every 2 weeks. Cheryl is part of that, as well as Wendy Gage. And we identify students who are chronically absent and truant. When we identify those students, we make and look at a chart to say, what have we already done for these students? One of the ways that we work with families is we will actually make phone calls to them. What we find out with some families are, especially if they're truant, they aren't aware that they actually have 9 days they can call in for their kids. So we tell them, hey, you know, we're able to identify your child. We can excuse some of their absences. Let's make sure we get that done. The other thing that we really did this year is we really looked at technology, and we really used our school messenger to the best of our ability. And what we started to do is, again, we identified all those students and we identified how many absences they were at. And using the school messenger, we were able to target those students and use specifically their names. So we could say, Johnny Jones currently has 16 absences. We just want to let you know that 18 makes them chronic for the year. So please make sure your child is here for the remainder of the year. I really think that was a huge piece for us. We had heard feedback from families before when School Messenger wasn't allowing us to put names into the fields, that which child of mine, how many absences. So we're really able to target that and help families, really give them the knowledge. It's about letting them know what was happening within their child's attendance, because it goes back to, if students are here, then they can learn. Tier 1 instruction only happens when students are present in the building. So our last thing that we are going to be targeting going to the 24-25, we identified that kindergarten and preschool had higher than average numbers of absences. So we're going to really be working with those families to, again, identify, the students who are having high absenteeism, and really talking to families about that these are the years that they really set their strategies, how they can identify things like their letters and their numbers. But not only that, they build their own internal ways of making sure that I know school is important. I know I should be there. So again, it goes a lot to that portion of the graduate of making them lifelong learners.
Ask a question. Sure. Very little here and I can't see that far. The first paragraphs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that pre-COVID?
So the blue is the state average, and the gold. Sorry, I'm colorblind. Gold is the what we were at. So in 1920 we were just below state average. then
COVID.
well,
Yeah.
COVID, and I don't even, some of these numbers, we all look at them. The state average really got out of,
And then our last.
so our numbers have been
Yeah, and this is
decreasing
last
along the
year,
way.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're getting close to our pre-COVID.
Yes,
Yes, we're much closer to our pre-COVID.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have several new initiatives that we wanted to share with you tonight, and certainly we are be happy to come back later in the year once they're solidly in place to tell you more about how they're doing. One of them is Number Corner, and then this is going to be adding on to our math curriculum, so it'll be in addition to. And then we have, we're going to flip through these and we can talk more in depth. Our Win Block, so we've taken our intervention time, made it a dedicated time within our schedule, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. MTSS is, as you know, high school, middle school have been working on that. Now it's Broadbook's turn, which we're very excited about. So that's starting this year. So to talk a little bit more about Number Corner, this is about 10 minutes a day. It will add on to the illustrative math curriculum that we're already using. It is for grades K through 2, and it was identified through our math coach and the teachers that there were pieces that kids weren't getting enough of through illustrative math. So looking at basic math skills, some number sense in particular, and then additional problem solving. So this is one of the key components, is the calendar that you'll see. I'd be more than happy to come back later in the year and talk more in depth about it. But very excited so far as we're seeing these materials go up and how they are vertically aligned from K through 2 and building on each other, what a positive impact it will have. And then MTSS, as I said, we are just starting, 3 weeks into school, so it is very new to us and we are working to build our systems. So we're building our data studio. We'll be having our weekly consultation meetings with Jacqueline DuBois. And we have our leadership team in place. So Charlene Smith, our school social worker, Tyler Porcello, our BCBA, Don Goodwin, our school psychologist, and Christina Fairbanks, our instructional coach who focuses on math, will be our leadership team will be helping us to implement that.
The structured WIN block. So WIN actually stands for what I need now. So one of the things that we did through the science of reading was identify that tier 2 instruction is something that we're really continuing to push. So what we have done is dedicated a time during the day where tier 2 instruction can happen in multiple places, either in the classroom, something that the teacher has identified that the student needs now within their own structure, or it also gives us an opportunity for tier 2 and tier 3 for pullout for either reading or math. So it's really an opportunity for us to really get down to that area where students really need the help. It might be filling gaps. It might be they have not have seen that concept yet. So we're really designing that time for that small group instruction for teachers to really be able to work with students based on the data that they're getting from a lot of what they're doing with the iReady, the Acadians, our Dibble scores, so that we're seeing those areas of weakness. How do we help them so that those area of weaknesses become areas of strength?
And our last new initiative is Purposeful Play, which is also a state mandate for grades pre-K through and kindergarten. Last year, our 2 instructional coaches and then Chandra, our teacher of the year, participated in a multi-day professional development in which they really went into depth around purposeful play activities. So it's not just, as we think of with kids at recess, just out there free playing, but there's structure to it. And so activities are set up where students are exploring. They're having to plan, they're having to collaborate, they're having to report out. Teachers are asking them questions about what they're doing. So over the course of the year, the pre-K teachers and the kindergarten teachers will be working with the coaches to be able to do some more planning and making sure that they're getting those activities in place for their students. And like I said, we're going to build on our academic and school climate successes for a great year. So anybody have any questions?
Purposeful play to only pre-K and kindergarten?
So state mandated currently it is pre-K and K. We do know that some of our teachers, especially in grades 1 and 2, have been using that concept very similar to how the idea was from the summer program, giving students like, okay, For instance, one of the classrooms I saw, they have a deck of regular playing cards. So they would pick up two and then say, okay, I'm going to make a math problem. Here's my math problem. I have a 10 and an 8. This one I'll make a subtraction. Here's 10 minus 8 is 2. Okay, shuffle them all back together. So it's purposeful and they're playing, but there's something that behind that. So that it's not just that free play you see on the playground. There's a reason to that.
Yeah, and then there is also the free play as well. So one of our first grade teachers actually started this last year and found great success with it. As the students are coming in, if they're not at breakfast, they're coming in, they've got about 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so before everybody's come from breakfast. She just had bins of blocks, different, items out, and they could work together to play with them. So it was a nice soft start to the day. Time for them to just settle in, have those conversations with each other and have some free play before everybody came and they started their curriculum.
So I have one question. So I just wondered about the WIN and the intervention in the classroom, right? So if you're doing it for the primarily tier 2, right, a little more instruction in the classroom, tier 2, and sometimes tier 3, sometimes kids go up, but when they're all in the classroom in that tier 2 component, what happens to the tier 1? So the classroom teacher is focusing on the tier 2 kids. What happens to the other
There was
kids?
also enrichment opportunities as well. So one of the things that was
So the
presented,
other kids,
everybody's engaged in something.
Right.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
but who's doing it? So if you're doing tier 2, right, and there are identified kids in the classroom, right? And I would assume that the classroom teacher is really kind of looking at the kids. If you have other kids that are not identified as tier 2, what do they do? And who's doing that?
So in some of those activities, students are, so what we've broken it down into
Yeah.
is a 2-week pattern for 5 days. So let's say week 1
Yeah.
is you have 2 reading days and 3 math. That means the opposite week's going to be 3 reading and 2 math. The opportunities are for students. So if they're doing the reading block and we have students who are enrichment, they're in a book club. So they have other students who are also
Okay,
who are
yeah.
readers, very similar at their level. They can get together. They have a book that they're going to be reading. They ask each other questions. So when that time that the teacher is not working with the tier 2 students, they can have an opportunity to sit down with them and say, okay, where are you guys in the book? What questions have you gotten? What questions have you gotten to? What questions are you still asking yourselves? In math, and in reading, they're still able to do their ready minutes. That's definitely a time that they want to do because that's what they're trying to work towards also is practicing at their level, their pathway. So, but in math, it can also be those times for enrichment activities that are in the IM program that we don't get to very often in the classroom itself. So it's already that pre-built into the programs, but they're just able to use it more often.
I'll be happy to come back later in the year when things are really rolling. Yeah, show you more and tell you more about it. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On the agenda, we have the superintendent's update.
So we had a board special meeting primarily on facilities last Wednesday. So that's a follow-up to that discussion. So I was able to connect with CSG. I did provide them an update on the recent progress from our subcommittee and our board meeting work. Shared with them that there's consensus as far as moving forward, as far as renovating our elementary school to new, and that, we've reached consensus as far as wanting to move forward as far as next steps, as far as exploring the combined middle school and high school campus, but that there's further discussion work needed to determine the site, whether that would be middle school or high school, renovate new or build new, and that we were requesting an estimated cost for building a new middle school, high school campus, as that was not one of the 6 or 7 options they originally provided. And that back and forth discussion, they did indicate they needed to check in with the town leadership, which I can tell you, I have been in contact with the first selectman as well. So he's aware that there'll be some conversation to take place to see how to move forward in that. under the current, contract, does the scope of work fall under that current, scope of work, or would they have to do an RFP? My sense from CSG was that they believe it would, fall under the current scope of the contract, which means, obviously that's a shorter, turnaround time as far as moving forward with some of this. If it's not, then it's going to take a little bit more time. On the positive, we are moving forward with CSG to meet with their ed specialists to get the ed specs. And that's really to essentially for their educational specialists to meet with our middle school and high school staff to essentially highlight or prioritize our essentially what are the things that are most important educationally, curriculum wise, space wise, with that. So those dates have been scheduled. They might take place in the next 2 weeks. So there's good movement. And that's kind of where we are right now. Any questions?
When, well, the meeting with CSG and about the ed specs, who, is that just something you're going to go into?
So not just me, they'll be meeting with teachers from each building. So there's one day dedicated.
But
Or
the
a half day.
subcommittee doesn't need to be
No,
available.
no, it's just,
Okay.
nope, it's just really, you know, so let's say I'll use, science, like it's meeting with like maybe the science PLC leader. It's a 15-minute meeting. I'm sure they have a script of questions, information to just have an understanding. As far as the vision, as far as like you're supporting a science curriculum, what would be required for facilities? So essentially they're referring to it as the ed specs.
Thank you.
Yep.
So they're gonna do the middle school and high school,
Yes.
okay, and we don't need to do that here.
Not at this time. That's, I mean, again, we're basing on the consultation with CSG. But we've also prioritized the secondary school first. Too, so I would imagine, you know, that's the reason why as well.
Thanks. All right. Were there any other questions?
So my understanding is you're gonna check out the scope of service in the contract to see if some of those other questions that we're asking, right, are in the contract or if they could be outside.
Along with the town.
So we
town
can kind of.
Yeah, yeah, they're doing,
So
they're doing
then
that in
anyway,
the town
we have to
side.
wait just a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Liaison and subcommittee reports? We have any for this time? I know there's been,
Facilities is kind of, everybody was at the last one.
yeah,
so
everybody was at that one.
report on that. We were all there.
And I think our financial subcommittee meeting tonight had to be canceled because we didn't, is it because we didn't have enough
Correct.
people? So we'll reschedule that one.
Yeah, I'll talk to Patrick and Ryan, and we'll figure out if we reschedule or just
Have the next,
see
the
what's
next one
on
hits.
the next one. I got hung up at work and wasn't gonna get here on time. And Heather was gone on vacation, so it was gonna leave Fran and Denise, and I thought Fran might want to go to the high school house. So I said, well, you know, Fran and Denise couldn't handle it on their own, but maybe they just assumed would go.
Thanks for, I could have dinner with Ashley.
I got to go to dance school. We don't have any financial, but athletics met last week. We'll give you a brief, our first meeting of this year. We talked about a lot of things. It was a really good meeting. The track is in its process. We talked about all the fall sports that are going on, varsity girls, soccer, volleyball, co-ed cross country, middle school cross country. We had some discussion about what the co-ops are going to be for this year for our other sports. We followed up on the whole idea of a soccer program here at the middle school. I mean, at the Robert Elementary School with an after school, and we're going to put that on an agenda to come have a whole board conversation about that by Patrick. We said either October or November. But
We said, yeah, I believe we said the second meeting in October.
in October, yes. So, that, and, kind of a kickoff to the year. So
The soccer program, would that be for next fall or tentatively for spring?
We're talking about for the spring.
Okay.
Possibly doing it in spring, which may. If we can one of the thoughts is that if we can do it in the spring, it may be a way for some of these smaller kids who have never experienced soccer to say, hey, let's go do the youth soccer program that is in the fall. So, so that'll be on an agenda coming up in October. To get that kind of level down.
All right. Any other liaison or subcommittee reports?
I know Heather's not here, but BPR has not met to start the school year. The first meeting is next Wednesday. So it's a week from today.
We have a curriculum council meeting set up coming up. Maybe in two weeks.
Yeah. All right. Do we have any public participation? Or a second round of public participation? Do we have any public who would like to? And then we have miscellaneous. Do you have?
Patrick, we do.
I was gonna say, I have one thing about reminding the board members to fill out the survey
Yes.
for the, for our self-review. So Justin had sent that out. It's a link in the email. So if you first look and you're like, oh, there's an attachment, it's actually like a hyperlink in the email itself. So if you go in, there's just a few questions. I think he had asked if we could do it by today. If you could do it by tomorrow,
Tomorrow will be perfect.
that would be great.
I already have. It's whoever's left.
So if you could do that.
I did.
So that he can kind of collate those answers and have that set up for our board self-review. We would appreciate that. And then I was just gonna share that I was at the high school open house tonight. That was partly why I was running late, so I apologize. But I thought it was a good open house. There were quite a few people there, quite a few teachers. They had a little bit of a pasta dinner for people if they wanted to come into the cafeteria and have salad and pasta. And then they had the tables for different after-school clubs or different activities, the Leo Club, some of the other things,
There was a
and the
number.
police
Yeah, the
were
police
there,
um,
and Booster Club was there, and Gabby was there with
With Amplify.
Amplify. So there were a number of different like tables, school related and also like community related.
Yeah, the police were, they were promoting their Explorers Club and they had some signups.
Oh, good.
So they had 4 or 5 students I could see signed up as of 6:30, I believe.
Did they used to do a workout club too at the school, some of the kids? Did you say that before?
They
like,
did,
Yeah, are they not doing it this year?
I'm sure the deputy chief will continue that if he hasn't started it yet.
Okay.
But they did that last, it was ran in the spring.
Oh, in the spring. Okay.
So I thought the open house was nice and it looked like they had a pretty good turnout while I was there. So, and a lot of teachers, I walked around to see my son's teachers and everybody was available and happy to speak. So I thought it was a successful open house. And then I think I just had the survey. So I think that was it that I had.
Justin, you said there was 2 things.
Oh, yeah, the other one is the community engage, lost my train of thought. The community's expectations and experiences survey is going out in 2 weeks, and just to give the board the heads up and reminder, that's where we find out what their expectations are for the school system and how they feel on a number of different things and what their actual experience is. It helps us figure out where we need to enhance our efforts. This will be the 3rd or 4th year we've done this, so we're starting to have some real data and to be able to track some momentum on it from years prior.
Just so that's going out to families and community members.
Yes.
And we'll end up sharing the results. So Justin usually does a presentation once we
Yeah,
have results.
yeah.
And can report on those trends. So we'll have that later in the fall.
You know, I'm going to answer the question, does it go out, can it be translated into Spanish so that Spanish speaking families can?
Yeah. It's all electronic, but we can do like.
Oh.
Can I ask under miscellaneous, I missed the last meeting, but was there any transition issues with the new food service program?
No, not really. I mean, they're going through a trial. I mean, Laura could probably speak to like more of the trial menu, right? 21 days.
Some items that are good,
Yeah.
some items that are not loved so much, yeah.
Trial phase and like, I know like, so like they're monitoring like what ones are more popular as they And then they'll build their menu going forward. So they're going through like, is it 21 days?
Yes, 21 days, yes, yes.
There's been a lot of feedback that they've been running out of a lot of food options, even not for like the last lunches, but even for like the second and third lunches, and there hasn't been enough of like some of the main options for kids.
Yeah, so I can tell you the first month's ordering, they did not do. That was from the previous outsourced food service director. So basically they were working with essentially what they walked into.
Okay.
So going forward, they get to essentially make it their own once we get through this first month.
I saw the big Cisco truck at the high school today, so. They got some food.
And Carrie had asked about menus, but now those menus are available. I think right through Power School too, kids can see, like what the menus are coming in.
Yeah, just a payback due to the state process, it was much delayed. So ideally, like we were anticipating the food service company was going to be on board in May, but going through all the red tape and going through that RFP, they weren't signing, not allowed to do anything until the contract's fully executed per state guideline. So even though we knew they were awarded the bid, they couldn't even come on, talk to staff until a contract was fully executed, which didn't take place till the second or even the third week in August. They really, I mean, to their credit, took the reins running. But as they're getting settled, making it their own, we're feeling very positive about the change in the transition.
I have a question. We went into Power School to do the school forms that you have to do, and in poking around, looking at things we never looked at before. Under the lunch, it had a thing to fill out to say what days you wanted lunch. Is that?
Zach had talked about that,
And I looked at it and I thought, I don't know if we're supposed to fill this out or not, but it actually had all of the
Yeah.
days of the month. I didn't do anything with it because I didn't know what it was, but,
Does it have the lunch
it,
for that
it
day?
didn't say what it had. It just said, do you want it for that day?
Tell me what it is
Which-
first.
Maybe it helps them
They can
predict
create
like
it
how
how
many.
I think it's a good idea to do it because there's a lot of days that we send lunch because there are some
Yeah.
options that are.
But they don't like,
not
yeah, because they
eaten.
like.
So if you tell them in advance, they could probably save on food or whatnot. I had just never seen it before.
Zach, he talked about that was one of the things that would be coming after the 21-day menu was that option for parents to be able to,
It is there.
yeah.
I guess one question on that, then they currently have several options for lunch. Will those options still stay? Or is it just going to be like today is a hamburger or peanut butter and jelly
No,
sandwich?
my understanding is students will have options.
Very good.
All right, any other miscellaneous? All right, in correspondence, we had just a couple things. There was a letter from, NEASC that, Mr. Roulard has been nominated as the NEASC Assistant Chair for a future Commission on Public Schools accreditation visit. So that means you could join an accreditation visit when they go to different schools. And I think there was a list there, so I don't know if that's something that.
Yeah, I mean, I included that in correspondence. One, certainly I think it's quite an accomplishment to have a nomination of such. Certainly, speaks to the recognition, I think, of Daryl's knowledge base and talent, as well as the work that's taking place in East Windsor. So we're certainly, excited both for him and us that, he was nominated for that. Fully anticipate that he'll accept that nomination. So we can continue to benefit from his participation and work with that. And then obviously Vincent Hernandez was a recent student rep whom we all love. And certainly wanted to share that, especially as he started the next on his journey in college.
All right. If there's nothing else on our agenda tonight, I would, entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, motion made by Denise and seconded by Carrie. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, everyone.